Okay, so welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of the video that I did the other week regarding adding light to your images using Lightroom and Photoshop. I had to break it up into 2 parts because I thought the video was just going to be too long. So this is part 2. Let's go ahead and hop back in. Appreciate you watching. We're going to move on over to our last image here, just again to try to give you some proof of concepts, if you will. So it's something that you could apply to your images and just build upon it. Lastly, the dog is sitting here in the stairwell. I got this nice big old window here and it looks like some sunlight is shining in. I want to get a little more sunlight shining down these stairs and maybe even putting a little bit of light on him. What I'll do is I'll create a new layer down here like so. We will grab our lasso tool over here by clicking L, but I don't want lasso. I want the polygonal lasso. And I'm going to draw a little section here that I want to light up. First, I'll start with just this wall here. So I'll put a point here, draw it out right about there, something like that. Just drawing it out. And then we'll hit the connection like that. Okay, so we have a selection on the screen. Best thing to do is always take your selections, go to the modify menu and feather it. It'll look a lot better. I'll do it at 40 pixels for now. You can't see a difference just yet, but you will a little later on. All right, so now let's take this area and we'll add a little bit of color or light in this situation. So we'll go to our fill menu up at the top. So we'll go to edit, fill, and select fill with color. And that's going to bring up our color picker. Now we see we have a little bit of white light over here. It's not pure white. It has a little bit of color in it. So I'm going to pick something closer to yellow with white mixed in like that. Click OK. Keep this at normal. Click OK again, and it fills it in with this yellowish white light, if you will. That does not look very good. What we can do is adjust the opacity and the fill, bringing it down just a little bit. See, it's starting to look a little more natural now. So that's not bad, but it's still not perfect. It'll look a little bit better once we put some blur on it. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to convert it to smart object again. Now I'll go to the filter menu. I'm not going to select camera raw. I'm going to select blur. And I'm going to select Gaussian blur. Now if Gaussian blur was all the way down to the lowest value, you're not going to see much of a change. But as I push it up, you'll notice that it's going to get a little softer and the edges of it will soften up, making it look a little more natural, like regular light shining in on that wall. So let's click OK and take a look. Okay, so that looks a little bit better, but since it's a smart object, I can go ahead and adjust it a little more. We'll say it about 400. Click OK. All right, so that light looks a lot better. Unfortunately, we have an edge where we drew our little mask in, or our selection, but we can fix that really easily with the layer mask. So you click down here in the bottom right, add yourself a layer mask. Grab your brush tool or click B on your keyboard and always make sure your brush is soft. To do that, hold down the Alt key, right click, and if you drag your mouse down, you'll notice the hardness goes up to 100%. We don't want that. We want it very, very soft. So 0%, like that. Okay. And since we have a layer mask, what we're going to do is cover it with black. So that's going to hide anything on this particular layer and will reveal whatever's below. So we're going to just brush in black like that on the edges, just to get rid of that hard selection that we created. So now it looks more like actual light shining in on the window. And if you find that you're having issues with the brush sensitivity and pressure, you can make adjustments up here at the top with the opacity. I typically don't keep my layer mask brush at 100%. Anywhere between 50 and 80% is good. Same goes for the flow. But as you can see, this actually worked out fairly well for just adding a little bit of light right there. So if we click the eyeball here on the layer, we're going to turn it off. This is what the image looked like before, and this is the after, just by giving a little bit of spotlight there on the wall. All right, so now I want to try to give a little more light to this scene and bring out the stairs and bring out a little bit of the detail of the dog right there. So instead of making a new layer, I'm going to take our existing layer here with the dog, the original layer, and we're just going to make a selection on it using our polygonal lasso tool. So we'll just hit our little L there. I'm going to draw in a shape, something like this. And you can make it any kind of way you want, but I suggest trying to make it, you know, work with the angles that you're dealing with on the screen. And when you get that circle at the cursor, click it and it'll close. Okay, so now that I drew this shape on top of the main layer, what I can do is duplicate that layer by hitting Control J, and it makes a second layer over here, but you notice it cut out everything. It only left that part that we drew in as a selection, and that's quite all right. That's what we wanted this time. So let's put everything back, but we're still only working on this layer number 2. If I want, I can hop over to the image menu, select adjustments, and I can just hit exposure right here and just push the exposure up like that. So now we can see what's going on these stairs. I don't necessarily recommend messing with the offset, so I'm going to put that back to 0, but we can just adjust this exposure to as low as we want or as high as we want, but try to make it look right. Okay, so that's one way to do it. I'm going to undo that. You can also use adjustment layers for this layer. So you go down to your adjustment layer menu, and you have all of these options here, very similar to that image menu over there. So let's say we wanted to do a curves adjustment layer. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to pop that layer just above our selection. And I will push the shadows up right here. So I'll push that up like that. Now you notice this is affecting the whole image when I do that. That's not good. So we need to undo that. And we want this curves adjustment layer to only deal with layer number 2. Okay, so to do that, you do what's called a clipping mask. So you press Alt on your keyboard and you just click in between those 2 layers, and then you'll get a clipping mask, which is going to put the curves layer only affecting layer 2. So now when I push those shadows up, it only does it for layer 2. So something like that, not too much, like that. All right, so now we have lit up our scene, but it still could use a little bit of work. So just like the last time, I highly recommend putting a little bit of Gaussian blur on it. So let's go ahead and convert layer 2 to a smart object again. Go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I don't want it that much, just a little bit. All right, so now we have that, and then we'll put a layer mask on it to soften up the edges. So we made our layer mask. We're going to hit B for the brush tool. I'm going to make sure our default color is black, and we're going to make sure it's a soft brush, and it is. And we'll just paint over those hard edges. And then remember, you can also adjust the opacity of the layer. That'll soften it up too. Paint those hard lines out. And if you ever feel like you've painted in too much, just go back and switch it to white, and that'll allow you to paint some of that stuff back. So I'm going to put some of it back. All right, so that's it. Again, this is very, very rough. I'm going to group these together so you get a good before and after. All right, so this is before. Not much light right there, not much light on the stairs. And this is after. We've given some light right there. Boy, that looks really bad. Ooh, you can tell I didn't use a good angle right there on the stairs. A little better, but you get the drift. All right, so that's it. That is how you manipulate and edit light inside of Lightroom and Photoshop, just playing around with all of the different tools that are built inside of this software and just seeing what you can get to make the most of your images, because sometimes you're going to miss exposure, you're going to miss focus, and every now and then you're going to have to rely on this software to help rescue your images. Hopefully this is something that'll help you out for one of your future projects. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like, share, and the subscribe button. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can leave those comments below. I try my best to read all of the comments and reply to them as fast as I can. But until then, thank y'all for watching this video, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Take care.